Hi there, how's it going? It's Monday. That means that it's only a few days until Friday the 13th. A good day to release a book like this. The Rise Tales from the Gulp 3 comes out on Friday, 13th February 2026. And I thought what I might do is read the opening of a few things. So, The Rise is the third book in the Tales from the Gulp series. The first book was The Gulp, second book was The Fall, third book is The Rise. Each book contains 5 novellas, and they're all interconnected. They all take place in the creepy, weird harbour town of Culpeper, somewhere on the New South Wales south coast, which is a town where strange things happen. It's called Culpeper, but locals call it the Gulp because the place has a habit of swallowing people. Each of the novellas in all 3 books is a standalone story in itself, set within Culpeper and its environs. Equally, all the stories interconnect in one way or another, apart from just the shared location. They share characters, they share events, one story bleeds into another. Across the Gulp, the first book, the first set of 5, you get a bigger story of what's going on. Following that with The Fall as well, you get a bigger still story of what's going on. Now the third set of 5 novellas, each stands alone, each interconnects, and hopefully we get a really big arc of everything that's going on in Culpeper. And so I thought I would read a little bit from the start of each story in The Rise, give you a taste of what it's about. The first story is called Strange Leaves. I'm really hoping this video mirrors, because for me it's not mirrored, and it should be when it saves. If it's not mirrored when it saves, and I don't manage to fix it, I'm sure you can cope. The first story in The Rise is called Strange Leaves, and it opens something like this. Adam Campbell and Neil Jones stood looking at the blood-soaked, crumpled form of Ramsay Golden on the stained cement floor. Ramsay's eyes were half open, rolled back, a crescent of scarlet-tinted white in each. His nose sat crooked, one arm bent awkwardly back. Blood ran in rivulets from either side of his slack mouth. He was very still. "Have we fucking killed him?" Neil asked. Adam looked at the broken man on the floor, to Neil, and back again. Shit. It was only meant to be a warning. Well, you won't fucking do it again. The large workshop unit on the south side of Culpeper, innocuous among the various factories and industries there, was quiet in the depths of the night. Shelves and crates stood around the walls, metal desks scattered with tools filled one end. Weak light from the one overhead fluorescent they'd turned on made stark shadows in the corners. Adam wasn't really sure what his uncle did here for work, but he had a key and it was a good quiet place for meetings, so that worked for him. He just knew that he wouldn't want to be in his 60s like Uncle Aaron and coming into a shithole like this every day to make a living. What a life that would be. At 30 years old, Adam wasn't exactly setting himself up, but he hadn't needed to take some crappy trade or anything like that either. He didn't like the term petty crime, because it was anything but petty. But he did all right for himself on his own terms. Until now. And he just fucked everything up. So that's the opening of Strange Leaves, the first story in the novella. The second story, the first story in the novella, the first novella in the collection. The second novella is called Sunlight on Clear Water. And that one opens something like this. Summer sun lanced through pale gum trunks, the trees in thick profusion on either side of the narrow road. Broken asphalt edges and potholes made the way treacherous, and Beverly drove slowly. "Where are you taking me?" Will asked. A slight smile twitched his lips as he asked. But he was a little concerned as well. Apart from where they were heading, there was nowhere to turn around, and Will didn't relish sitting in the small Volkswagen while Bev reversed all the way back down the steep, broken, winding road. "Trust me." The road got a little steeper still, then dipped through another shallow valley before rising again. They had to be nearing the top of the ridge. "I didn't even know this road was here," Will said. Beverly smiled. "Well, you've only lived in Culpeper a few months, right?" "Well, almost 6 now. It's not a big place. I thought I'd seen all of it." "No one has seen all of the Gulp." "Sounds ominous." "You'll get used to that." Bev gestured vaguely to their left, the ridge rising beside the car. "There used to be a couple of farms on top up there. Look, there's an old gate now." A rusted metal 3-metre farm gate hung crookedly from a rotten wooden fence post a little way back from the road, the whole thing mostly overgrown. Probably the long grasses were all that kept the whole thing from collapsing forever. "How long since anyone lived up here?" Will asked. "Generation or two, I guess." but it's not entirely abandoned. The last farm at the end of the road, right on top of the ridge, still occupied. Hell of a place to farm this deep in the bush. Oh, it's not a working farm anymore, hasn't been for decades, I don't think. Hilda, sister of Gottfried, lives up there, children of German immigrants from after the Second World War. They were born on the farm. It's all bush down here among the valleys, but when you get on top, there's a lot of cleared land. And this Hilda and Gottfried live up there but don't farm. Only Hilda, neither married and neither left home, and when their parents died, they inherited the land, stopped farming, so the town gossip goes. Anyway, they must have some kind of independent wealth, as they never worked as far as anyone around here can tell. Gottfried died a year ago, but Hilda's still there. She's got to be at least 70, I guess, probably more. Must be lonely. Doesn't seem to bother her. I've lived her all my life and only seen her once in town in all my 19 years. That was when Gottfried died and she came to his funeral at the cemetery north of town. Why were you at Gottfried's funeral? You know the family? I worked hospitality in the private room upstairs at Clooney's for the wake. I do that part-time now and then when they need extra hands. Decent money when it comes up. Hilda came in, drank one sherry, then insisted on being taken home. Left the other dozen or so guests to carry on without her. The whole thing was over in less than an hour. So I didn't actually make much that time, and I missed out on a Blind Eye Moon gig in Endon to be there. All my friends had left before I finished, and I spent the evening watching TV at home like a loser. Let's not forget Blind Eye Moon. They'll come up again later. So that's how the second novella in the collection opens. The third one is called Vitulinum. This was hard to write. It comes with its own content warning at the top because it is horrible. It is a nasty story, like nasty people and nasty things. I'm going to read just the opening part of it, but just bear in mind it opens with some child abuse. So, skip on 30 seconds or something. I'm just going to read the first few paragraphs of this one just because I promised to read something from each one. Connor Tucker was an expert at going unnoticed, but still copped a beating from his father on a regular basis. As the man's fist landed again, hammering already bruised stomach muscles, Connor gritted his teeth and refused to cry. Crying would only bring those fists to his face. Is it that fucking hard to remember? Frank Tucker shouted, slamming another punch into Connor's stomach. Is it? Sorry, Dad, I just forgot. The last word escaped in a rush, driven up his throat by the man's knuckles in his gut. One more, and he was sure he would puke. Then he'd really be in trouble. Fucking useless. I'll leave that one there. It is a strangely heartwarming story in its own way. It's not just abuse and violence, but it is a story that is built on that scaffolding. The architecture of abuse and violence is what drives the characters in that story, but there are some wonderful characters in that story too. And it was a very hard story to write, but the feedback I've had on it so far has been very positive. So I'm very pleased that I appear to have pulled off what I was trying to do with that particular yarn. The fourth story in this latest collection is called The Culpeper Institute of Health and Wellbeing, which in itself is a bit of a joke, isn't it? That one opens like this. Elise Griffin, known to the world as Evie Chill, looked up at the facade of the Culpeper Institute of Health and Wellbeing and wondered what the hell she was doing. She'd never heard of the place before Michael booked her in. Shit, she'd never even heard of Culpeper, the weirdly isolated harbour town that seemed to birth itself from the thick bush as the hired limo emerged from a tunnel of old-growth forest and the ocean suddenly sparkled ahead of them, the surprisingly large town spread out before it. She'd been up and down the coast of New South Wales and Victoria dozens of times since she was a kid, and passed Endon and Moncton frequently enough, but had no idea this place existed. Of course, she'd spent less and less time in Australia since her meteoric rise, but still, weird she'd never heard of the place. The Institute is brand new, Michael assured her effusively 2 days before. State-of-the-art, amazing facilities. It was only opened a little over 18 months ago, exclusive clientele. Wasn't easy to get you a spot, I can tell you that, or cheap. But money is no object with our girl, right? You need to make sure we do all we can to get you rested and firing back on all cylinders. It was her money her manager has spent, of course, the amount of which had become embarrassingly hard to imagine in recent years. One thing she never needed to worry about again, at least. One thing she never needed to worry about again, at least, the man garbled on, talking about exhaustion and overwork, but Evie wasn't fooled. She was falling apart. Michael was terrified because it was clear she was in the throes of a significant mental health breakdown, an unstoppable downward spiral, and he saw profits potentially going down with her. But to his credit, he'd found this place, and perhaps what she needed was some isolation and pampering, some rehabilitation. Fuck, she just needed to be off for a while. Michael was her manager because she made him a shit ton of cash, so even if he was only protecting his own income, it still benefited her, didn't it? You can imagine the sort of time Evie Chill's about to have in Gulpepper. And the last story in this volume, the 5th novella in this story, the 15th novella in the series, potentially the last story, because I don't think I'm planning to write any more official tales from the Gulp after this, is called The Rise. The Rise starts like this. Chrissy Carter stood in her kitchen at 6:15 a.m. and wondered if she'd ever sleep again. The energies were chaotic. Gulp mist, her father had called it, the miasma around certain people and places in Gulpepper, a kind of aura they gave off. She'd learned to recognise it as well, to read it, and in truth saw it more clearly than her father ever did. But she'd never seen it on such a scale, drifting across the landscape itself. Fundamental shifts were underway. She sensed Rich stir in the bedroom at the other end of the house, smiled as she felt him notice her absence. She gently put the thought of the kitchen in his mind and went back to staring out at the dawn light, bright over the ocean, indigo still to the west. She had become more powerful than her father at a young age and was always more subtle in her abilities too. "You've got more Carter in you than me or my dad before me," her father had said when Chrissy was still a teen, but she wondered how much any of that might help in the coming days. She would be tested, that was beyond doubt. The Gulp itself would be sorely tested. And so The Rise draws to something of a conclusion. Blind Eye Moon were mentioned before. I know they're a fan favourite, and they get to have a lot of fun in this book. So if you're hoping to see Blind Eye Moon again, you will. Chrissy Carter and Rich are there again. Several returning characters, several new ones. A lot of what you've come to expect from the Tales from the Gulp. And hopefully some new surprises too. And hopefully something like a relatively satisfying conclusion, even though there are still a lot of threads left hanging. I'm going to be coming back to Gulpepper plenty. I've already got a novel out on submission that's set in Moncton. This particular fictional geography is somewhere I'm going to visit again and again, no question. It's too much fun. Whether I do another volume of official Tales from the Gulp, I don't know. I don't think so. I think 3 volumes, 15 novellas. I think that's all the skeleton I need for this place. But Gulpepper, Moncton, Endon, that sort of place around. Blood Covenant, if you've read that, is set in the hills behind Endon. I'm definitely going to be visiting this area a lot. I enjoy playing in it so much, and people seem to enjoy reading about it. So, yeah, I'll be back. But this might be the final official Tales from the Gulp. So it's out on Friday the 13th of February, 2026. If it's already past that date, it's already out. I'm doing a special bundle through my website. If you want to buy all 3 ebooks or paperbacks from me at a special price, you can. Certain restrictions apply because of international postage and stuff like that. Otherwise, wherever books are found. And if you do read these stories and you do enjoy them, please, please, please tell people about it. Word of mouth is powerful magic, especially for little guys like me. So if you do enjoy the stories, please tell your friends about them. Gift the books as well. That's another great way to share things you love. You get to share an experience, you get to share a read, and you get to do the author a favour too. That's nice. Anyway, Friday the 13th, grab a copy if you're in for it. Really hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.